Oh yeah, got this in yesterday. Maple burl. Corellian burl, dyed. Corellian, natural. And maple burl, black, and I don't know, red, peach, what would that be called? With some white, just incredible. Incredible. Okay, I'm out here today. I'm putting the edge on these two knives. And I don't know what I'm gonna do next. I may just break down and clean my shop. I'll let it get pretty dirty again because I've been busy making knives and moving things around. But I don't think I want to get too involved knife making. I think I just want to clean up my mess a little bit, because if I don't stay after it, it just becomes a chore that seems, the longer I let it go, the less I want to do it, because it seems so big, you know? So if I do it frequently, it takes far less time, and I just have to force myself to do it. So anyway, and I can't figure out what knife I want to make next. I've got this beautiful desert ironwood, and I want to put this on something really bad. And I think I want to do a sharp finger. Yeah. It's just enough to do a sharp finger. I can't get a BC Special out of this because it's not wide. That's not wide enough this way. A friend of mine and I have been talking, and this friend has suggested other ways of sewing my sheaths, but I'm really limited. The only hand that I have left that it has strength left in it and my fingers is my right hand. This hand, that's all I can get out of this is a claw. Now I can make these two fingers hold sandpaper and sand the blades. And I've been to so many doctors and they don't have any. They all have guesses, but nobody has a freaking solution except more drugs. And I'm not going to take more drugs. And I did take a steroid for a while, and actually I could close my hand a little more. And when I do close my hand, across the top of my knuckles, this joint here where my wedding band is, that joint, I don't know what you'd call that joint. Those joints all the way across those four fingers hurt, and the knuckles hurt. And no matter what angle my wrist is at, that's all I get out of that right there. I can make these work enough to make knives, and that's about it. So what I'm getting at is there's a saddle stitch, right? Where you use two needles. You take a length of your sewing thread and you put a needle on each side, and you shove needles through from each side, and you do a little twist, and it makes your stitches come out nice. Well, I can't do that because I only got one hand that I can reliably use, and two fingers that, you know, I drop everything I pick up with these fingers. There's not enough strength in them fingers to even open a freaking bottle. I have figured out ways of putting right up there in the web of my thumb where that little scar is right there. I can grab a bottle cap hard enough with that and then twist the bottle, and generally I can break a bottle free, but sometimes I just gotta hand the bottle to my wife. So anyway, that's why I don't do saddle stitches, because the way I stitch is the only way I can stitch using one hand, and I don't know why I got off into that. But anyway, I got some beautiful wood. I've got one more little order coming from Andre. This is from Oleg, and that's from Andre, all that. And I'm not sure if Andre is his first or his last name, but I can't pronounce his other name. It begins with an R. It's like Riegel Hoff or something like that. But I'm sure that's not the correct pronunciation. He's a Russian fella. And he's not in, okay, Oleg is in Tula, T-U-L-A. And this other fella, Andre, is from further south, closer to Ukraine, actually. But I can't remember the name of his town. Anyway, you know, these guys have web Facebook pages, and I was just talking to my wife this morning. Just both these guys have interesting lives. You know, one of them is a duck hunter and takes his kids to swimming pools and just has a life like any one of us here would have. And it's just so aggravating that our governments try to get us to hate people for whatever reason. And people in these countries, most all countries, now some Muslim countries, they're raised to hate anybody that isn't like them from birth. But most countries with any sort of freedom are just like us. Hunting, fishing, raising kids, enjoying life, working, having a home, fixing their cars, making knives. I mean, there's a guy named Trollsky, Trollsky, I believe. Trollsky. He's got a YouTube channel. And I think he may be Polish. I don't know. But anyway, you know, he's a knife maker and has an interesting life and a nice shop. And people all over the world are the same, who want the same things. But our governments can't stay the hell out of the way and let people get along. Anyway, and then we were talking about taxes this morning. This is Sunday. And we were sitting on the front porch, and I was drinking my last cup of coffee. And we were talking about taxes. You work your whole life, and you buy a car with money you've been taxed on. And you buy this car, and you pay taxes on this car that you buy. And then you go and register, and you pay taxes on the car you just bought again, and the registration. And then you pay for insurance. You have to pay for the license plate, and you got to pay to have it inspected. And then every drop of gas you put into it has taxes built into each gallon. Some states it's 20, 30 cents a gallon of taxes. You can't get away from taxes. I've said this one before, but it just keeps going over and over in my mind, because I've seen this happen where there'd be a lake where all the local people know this lake and know how to get their boats into it. And, you know, it's got good fish and not a whole lot of people. Well, the government decides that they want to build a boat ramp, a public boat ramp. And they have you pass a tax, and they use that tax to build this public boat ramp. All built, got nice parking spaces, a nice concrete ramp that goes down into the water, a pier where you can tie your boat up while you go park your truck. And then they charge you to get in to this place that your taxes paid to build. And then they got to hire people to man it so you don't get in there for free or launch your boat. And they get to determine how long you can stay there and how much it will cost you to. I mean, it just never freaking ends. Every time you turn around, there's a government handout waiting for your money. Anyway. Oh, and then they got the fish and game people. So your taxes paid for this nice ramp going down into the lake and a nice place to park that you've already taxes paid for it. Now you've paid to get in there with your family, and they charge you based on the amount of people you're bringing in. You finally get out on the water, and what happens? Along comes fish and game. They want to make sure you got life preservers and a fire extinguisher and a boat registration. They want to look in your cooler to make sure you're not drinking on the water or to make sure you haven't caught illegal fish. They want to make sure you got a fishing license. You can't get away from government. You can't get away from, you know, they have these shows where some guy's living in a freaking cabin in the frozen tundra. And to me, that guy has to go somewhere and get his ammo. And if he owns any of that land, certainly there's some government entity that forces him to pay taxes on it or places some restrictions on what he can or can't do on his land or what he can or cannot build, even though he lives 150, 200 miles from the closest human. There will be some government entity that governs what he can do. or taxes him on what he does do. Anyway, yeah, this is Cynical Sunday, in case you haven't realized. Okay, let's do something. I think I'm going to start by cleaning up, and then when I get tired of cleaning, I'm going to go sharpen knives. Okay, clean enough. I've got one thing I got to do. It's hard to turn with a dog in my lap. I got to put my last blade on that bandsaw. I've ordered a couple of more. Well, you sure go through blades in this hobby. And here's another kind of a funny thing. I'm a member of a lot of knife making forums, and sometimes somebody will say, hey, y'all put pictures of your shop up. And I'll put a picture of my shop up, and inevitably, always, I get people who say, you must not make any knives in that shop. And for a while, I used to, prove that I did, show them my knives, give them a link to my website, but I don't anymore. I just say, yeah, I spend thousands and thousands of dollars on tools, wood, sandpaper, and the electricity just so I can have a spotless shop that I don't make knives in. That makes perfect sense. And what got me thinking about this is MD Creekmore put on one of his videos, he was showing his gun, right? And he put a gun shooting noise in the video. I mean, you could tell it was, what do you call that? An add-on sound. I mean, it was for fun, it was for funny. And would you believe he had somebody say something about him shooting a gun in the air? And I mean, there's just no limit to the stupid that you have to endure whenever you involve yourself in anything public like Facebook or YouTube or Twitter or, all the other social media things. Here's one. I get this constantly. I got something yesterday calling me a big, dumb idiot. About 10 years ago, I did a video on removing an oxygen sensor from, I think it was a Hyundai. And there was it was way up behind the engine, between the engine and the firewall. There was about this much room to just barely get a hand up in there. You could not get a wrench over it. You couldn't get a ratchet over it. So what I did was heat it up with a torch, red hot, and then put a pair of vice grips on it. I could get a pair of vice grips up in there and clamp them down, and I was able to turn the O2 sensor out using that. And the whole video was about not being able to get a wrench up there to it because there's no room to slip a wrench over it. And I had this guy call me a big, dumb idiot because I didn't use a wrench. Instead, I used vice grips. What kind of idiot uses vice grips on something they can put a wrench on? And like I say, the whole video was about how to get around this issue where you can't get a wrench on something. And I didn't answer. I didn't. Actually, he didn't call me an idiot. He called me an asshole. And I wanted to say, really, man, that's what you want to call somebody? I mean, I put up a whole video showing folks how to remove an oxygen sensor that you can't get a wrench onto. And you're calling me an asshole because I didn't get a wrench on it. Unbelievable. Yeah, the internet's full of really stupid people, and this is one of them. Whenever I show a picture of my shop and it's not a mess, people tell me, well, you don't make knives in there, man. You must not make any knives. I make a knife a week. And my shop, you can't even find tools in there sometimes because it's so messy because I make a knife every week. You need to get out there and make knives instead of cleaning your shop, dummy. Was that an insulting enough voice? So that's what I imagine in my head that they sound like whenever I come across somebody like that. And it's frequent, and more frequent than you would think. I'm telling you, we live in a society where stupid people are growing faster than people of average intelligence. Oh, alrighty. I'm clean. I'm going to put a new blade on that bandsaw. Not this one, the one behind me. And then I'm going to drink me a Coke, and then I'm going to go sharpen them knives, and that will be done. I'll take them back to the house, put my last coat of wax on them, and then get them boxed up and ready for shipment on Tuesday.